Hi, and welcome back to the Women's Trans Society show. Today we're going to talk about peptides. We got the question what our take is on peptides in our free community, Built for More. And so we thought, why not make this a whole podcast episode?
Yeah, and the question, to be frank, was quite vague because it was just like, hey, what is your take on peptide? There are a lot of different peptides.
For a lot of different
applications,
right? We can go into like health, we can go into performance, we can go into reducing body fat, increasing muscle mass, like body transformation.
So we are going to keep the answer fairly vague because the question was not like super specific. But also, just before we go into that, quick disclaimer: this is not medical advice. We are not MDs. We are not going to prescribe anything. This is purely for education, information, and entertainment, maybe.
Entertainment purposes.
Yes. All right. So, first, let's just talk about what peptides even are. So it's a long chain of amino acids. So amino acids are the building blocks of protein, which we eat, and then we digest and it turns into small building blocks, and those are amino acid. And if you create like longer chain of those, if you combine a few of those and make a long chain, then it gives you peptides. And peptides you have also short, middle, and long chain peptides. Not all of them have the same kind of application or the same effect. And for example, you might have heard about collagen peptides. And those are short chain, for example. And they are fairly safe. They are acting as a way to increase the synthesis of collagen because they go pretty much undigested through your gut. So they are broken down from your stomach, and then you have like very short chain of 3 to 4 amino acids, and they enter the bloodstream. They can just go through the gut lining, and then they enter the bloodstream, and they are acting as a trigger to stimulate the synthesis of collagen. But there are also other short chain peptides that are called bioregulators. They are mainly found on the Eastern European and Russian side of the world. But this is something that is also gaining some traction and some popularity in the US and in the West. And then you have all the peptides that are more in the direction of drugs, and that are a bit more talked about, like GLP-1s agonists. Then you also have like the quote-unquote Wolverine stack, the TB500 and BPC157. Those are a bit longer chain peptides. You have to inject them. They are different beasts.
Because the question was, or the women who asked the question, what our thoughts are on peptides, were referring to everything you see right now on social media. So what is what you see right now on social media? Like what are the most common things you see people promoting peptides for and marketing it in a way?
So I think the 3 main categories are for weight loss, for longevity purposes, which is kind of funky because peptides are pretty new. So nobody who's 100 years old has been doing peptides for 50 years and know what the long-term implication of using that kind of compounds is.
Yeah.
So it's pretty funny. And the other one is mainly about performance, more so in the in the realm of trying to improve recovery capacity, more so than to improve performance. So I guess recovery, pain management, or injuries would be the category, like the one category. Then overall health and fat loss.
And the question then was, how do we see women who are inside, like working with us? What kind of results are they getting by following our program and using peptides?
To be absolutely transparent, I think we have like one lady who uses peptides, and she was already doing that before working with us.
Yeah.
So we cannot say like, hey, based on our 200 client experience that we've had with those ladies, then this is what we see, because like the women who work with us who get results, they do it by not using peptides. And so we cannot say like we have a big database around that. But for me, it also means like, hey, it is actually possible to get some results without the use of peptides.
And it's kind of always the same, right? There's always one trendy thing coming up, and then people are jumping on it, thinking it's a silver bullet to finally get the results more easily than they wish it takes to create the results they're looking for. And I have the feeling it's kind of like an, ebb and flow. The same things are coming back, or new things are coming up. It's the shiny object syndrome that keeps you distracted from focusing on the stuff that actually matters without spending a lot of money extra on stuff, right? So tracking your food, sleeping, training, that can all be for free, right? Of course, you can spend a lot of money on a gym membership. You can also spend a lot of money on, I don't know, a premium version of a food tracking app. But you can also go the cheaper route and take care of all those things to transform your body without spending extra money on it. And so it's funny that we always or humans always like to search for that quick fix, silver bullet that finally gets them the results without doing anything. That's kind of the wishful thinking of, hey, if we can just skip a little bit of work and make it easier, that would be great, or shorten the time frame it takes to achieve a certain result. And I always like to say, you cannot cheat your physiology. There are just certain things that take time and that require certain changes in your habits and the way you're fueling your body, and that you're training and taking care of your body, that you cannot skip. There's just no way around that. And having peptides coming into the equation, of course, they can add a little bit of like 2, 3, 5% maybe to get a little bit more better results. But if the foundation is not set up right, if you're not having your training, nutrition, recovery in place from the get-go, it doesn't fucking matter if you're using peptides, right?
I think it can even backfire, but I just want to react to something that you said. Like, I do think that new technologies are not only driven by the idea that you are going to get those results with less effort and in a short time frame. I do think that those new technologies are actually, they come from genuinely trying to improve something and having some results with that. And at the beginning or at the base level, the reason why they come around is because they are actually adding, some benefits
for sure,
to the equation. And this is I think this is valid for pretty much like any kind of new technology.
Yeah.
And it can be drugs, it can be machines, it can be, I don't know, algorithms, softwares, that kind of stuff. And so I do think that they have like some very true benefits. But I think that those technology, they arise in a context that is very specific. And then they get kind of dumbed down as they are democratized for whatever reason. Maybe it's for profit. Maybe it's because the person who invented that wanted to genuinely create something that would be revolutionizing, a revolution for the masses. and then it gets diluted. And this is where it gets a bit like tricky, how to use that.
And also how people are then like marketing it, right?
Yeah.
Because it can be like we're not like against peptides and against new stuff that is coming out if it adds value and benefits to our lives, to the human body, whatever it is that you're pursuing in your health and fitness journey. But what we also see is, I don't know, a very shredded and lean woman who is just like showing what kind of peptides she's using with the caption on Instagram that says, I started to take this and now I went from this physique to this physique, right? And so it gives you that illusion of like, there was no other work done there. And she was just starting to use peptides. And all of the sudden, all the other problems disappeared. And all the, everything that has to do with training and nutrition doesn't matter anymore because now she has the peptides and it's solving all her problems. And she's like super shredded and lean and gets the muscles and everything that she ever wanted.
Yeah, and it's not really the way it works. So I want to go into that to answer the question, like, what are your thoughts on peptides? And so the first thing that comes to mind is purely about the mindset of it, because like they work, but it's not quite sure how they work in some cases, not all cases, and or it's not quite sure what the long-term implication of their usage is. We are going to find that out in the next like 5 to 10 years, but right now it's kind of uncertain. And so the first thing you want to have in mind is, why is it that you want to use a peptide? Is it because you genuinely want to push your limits as far as you can and really truly see like, hey, what am I capable of if I go beyond what my physiology enables me to do? And then for me, if this is the mindset that you have, then it does open up the door to the use of also like PEDs that sometimes have even more research behind.
It's almost like starting a little experiment on yourself, right? It's like, what am I made of? How far can I push it with what nature has given me, and then what can I do beyond that?
Yeah.
What can I do? Like let's push the limits a little bit and
100%.
See what happens.
Kind of what they are trying to do with the enhanced games. So I don't know if you've heard about that. It's like the Olympic Games, quote unquote Olympic Games, but with athletes that are openly using performance enhancing drugs. And so if this is genuinely like your mindset, or even like someone who, like Brian Johnson, who's like, hey, I want to not die.
Yeah, figure out how to live.
Figure out how to live forever and not die. And I want to take some powerful drugs to do that. I'm like, okay, go ahead. This is kind of the right mindset and the right attitude to have if you want to use that kind of compounds. If the attitude is like, hey, I cannot really figure it out on my own how to achieve X, Y, Z. I don't really know where my limits are, and I'm not really interested in finding that out. But I just want to have something that's quote unquote reliable, and that's just going to give me the results that I want, and help me break through the plateau that I'm at right now.
For example, I have a weight loss issue. I want weight loss. I'm taking weight loss drug.
Yeah. If this is the mindset, then I think that this is already the wrong kind of environment to be experimenting with that kind of compounds, because they are kind of magnifying glasses. So they are just going to make everything that you do more obvious or just more pronounced. And so it's not like they have only upsides but no downsides. And when you start to I find this funny because when we talk about nutrition and training, we get a lot of comment about how complex it can be, trying to manage your macronutrient, trying to manage meal timing, then
training
training
intensity,
intensity,
volume,
training volume, training execution. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, we haven't even started to go into like
details.
advanced stuff
Yeah.
about trying to improve micronutrient
Yeah.
intake, like making sure that you get like the right amount of minerals and vitamins from your food before you even start adding supplements to that, and really trying to nail those. And so this is already quite complex, or it can be quite complex. And then you want to introduce a compound that's going to be quite powerful and changes really like how certain systems in your body are working. That's going to add one layer of complexity, and trust me, like this is going to be a big layer of a big complexity.
Yeah.
If you do that, then it's not going to end very well. So the first step for me is really to ask yourself, like, hey, what do I want to get out of those peptides that I want to take? If the answer is like, hey, I'm really committed to go all in and try to see what I can achieve first naturally, and then like with the help of those drugs, then I'm like, okay, let's go, let's do that. If it's just like, hey, I'm stuck, I don't know, it seems like nothing's working, then I'm going to just like revert to using that kind of stuff because everybody's talking about that and I'm hoping for a miracle, then this is not going to work. So that's the first thing. The second thing is practical. For me, it's like, hey, have you tried really nailing the stuff that we talk about quite a lot, but we are just going to repeat that for the sake of this discussion. But when it comes to the nutrition, you want to, nail your food intake in terms of food choices. So really focusing mainly on nutrient-dense food, high volume, that's going to give you a lot of minerals and vitamins that I was just mentioning. Then you want to making sure that you are nailing the quantities of it. So if you are not able to hit all 3 macro targets for a full week, then I think that it's not really your place to be thinking about peptide, because this comes first 100%. And then on top of that, you want to also nail your meal timing, which means that you want to have breakfast within 60 minutes of waking up. You want to have your dinner 3 to 4 hours before going to bed, and you want to making sure that your peri-workout nutrition is taken care of. So that's the nutrition around your workouts. Once you have maximized that, or that you're like, hey, those are the things that I'm doing and it's working and I've nailed it and I'm already getting results with that, then we want to look at the training side of it. So we want to make sure that you are able to nail your tempo, nail full range of motion for your movement, that you have an exercise selection that really enables you to grow the muscles that you want to grow. So if you have, for example, right now a split where you have some shrugs, but your goal is to actually grow some
glutes,
shoulders and triceps and your glutes, but you are doing shrugs like twice a week and biceps twice a week, but those are not muscles that really interest you. Split. And you are essentially doing a bro split, then there's something that can be optimized there. If, what did I say? Tempo, full range of motion, exercise selection, training intensity to make sure that you are able, whilst you are controlling the movement, to really push very close to or to failure without turning into an overcooked spaghetti or your tempo going to shit and that sort of things. If you are not able to do that yet, then peptides are not going to save you. And we haven't even touched on managing training volume and frequency. And we haven't talked about trying to use cardio to improve body composition.
Wanted to add that.
Yeah, which is in itself also like a huge topic. And then, of course, like making sure that you are walking enough during the day. And of course that you are sleeping enough and managing your stress, whatever that means, managing your stress, but it's a pretty big part of the puzzle. So those are the things that you want to actually kind of nail down before you even think about using peptides.
The big and boring blocks.
Yeah, I'm not even sure that they are boring, because
They're not boring. They're so complex that you can like really go into detail in all of them, right? So we have ladies starting to work with us, and they are kind of discovering this one thing they want to like get better at. And then once they have nailed that, then it's like, oh, there is this other thing. Like, it's definitely not getting boring, and we are working with ladies for a couple of years, right? And even then they have still questions, because new things are popping up along the way, and your body is changing and evolving. And so there is also not one set of exercises or a training volume, or this is the cardio protocol. Like, all those things are changing as you are going through your body transformation journey and pursuing different goals. So there are also a different input when it comes to those things, different input output that we need to pay attention to. So that's why, yeah, all of those things are very complex and are interesting. But sometimes I have the feeling that we think, or a lot of women think, hey, this is what I'm already doing, right? I'm already tracking my food and I'm already training consistently. But they don't see the depth and all the layers behind it, and how precise we can actually become in executing those things to really drive results. Because what we see very often is like, yeah, I've tried so many things, or yeah, I'm doing this already, tracking my food and lifting heavy. But when we are looking as coaches on the execution of those things, we are like, no wonder that you are not where you want to be. Like, it's very, very simple. And we can like point out 3-4 things that you can start changing now that will already give you better results. So that's why I think it's so important. And I think our goal is also to be very transparent in what it takes to transform your body and get stronger and fitter along the way, and be very honest with all the different pieces of the puzzle that actually need to click, so that you can take care of that first before then adding the peptides into the whole game.
Yeah. And I talked about like the mindset and then the kind of infrastructure of the nutrition and the training. But I think there's one more layer to that, which would be the third point of what I would consider before even starting to inject stuff in your butt, is understanding yourself, understanding your physiology. And, when you the first step is really to have an overview of all the variables that you have at your disposal, that you can you can turn a knob up or down. Those are the things that we just mentioned. And then what you want to do is actually understand like how your body reacts when you do that, when you are changing your macronutrient intake, when you are changing the training intensity, when you are training and changing the training volume. You want to understand like, oh, this is what happens when I do X, and then my body is reacting in such and such a way. If you don't have that, then like, let's assume for a minute that you have all of the pieces of the puzzle nailed down, and that you really have like a great protocol, like world-class protocol that's really suited for your physiology, but you've never applied it. At the very beginning, you don't really know how it feels, and you might not even notice the differences when you are going through that. And so you do want to spend some time like really understanding what happens when you manipulate those variables, because when you start to inject drugs in your body is going to react in some ways, and you want to be pretty in tune with what's happening in your body to understand like, hey, is this working?
Is it going in the right direction or not?
Is it going in the right direction or not? And that's one of the things with like those peptides, since there's not a ton of research on them, or maybe they have like good research. I'm thinking about the GLP-1 drugs. They have some research, but mainly in like diabetic population. this is a wildly different metabolic state or physiological state than people who are healthy.
Yeah.
And so the data might, like the founding that come from the studies in that population might not really apply the same way for someone who's not in that situation, who doesn't have diabetes. And so you want to really understand like how your body reacts to certain things, so that you can also, not just based on the few research that we do have about like peptides, but also purely empirically what's going to happen or what's happening as you start using those drugs. And there's one thing that I haven't mentioned, but it kind of goes back to the mindset part, is also having a certain form of emotional intelligence and being able to regulate your emotions, because like your physiology is definitely like 1,000% going to impact the way that you think, the way that you feel. And going through a fat loss phase, for example, this is something that you are going to notice when the calories are low. A lot of time it does have an impact on how you feel and how you think. And this is something that I hear like quite often, or at least on a regular basis, is like, hey, I'm feeling a bit more like not depressed, but just to feel low and mellow and a bit blue, or maybe I have more anxiety, and that's sort of things. And I mean, the point of a GLP-1 is to enable you to eat less because you have less hunger.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that the effect of a lower caloric intake is not going to be present and that you're not going to feel
psychologically,
it psychologically. So those are things that you have to consider, and you definitely want to have like a very, very good baseline about how your body is functioning when you are not using any peptides before you even start to consider using them.
Yeah, and I think that's really the work that we also see within the like Strong Babes Club, like the ladies who really strive inside the club and really love it there are the ladies who love to learn about their own body and how, like, what's happening, why it's happening. And also, of course, there are like similarities, but there are also very unique differences in how someone responds to a calorie deficit, right? So I'm not a person who's getting very low and, how did you say that? Like a little
Mellow.
bit like depressed.
Yeah.
I'm getting slow and I'm definitely more cold. But for you, it's definitely like the opposite. Like you have more negative thoughts coming up going through a fat loss phase. And so it's very interesting. While there are similarities going through the different phases, there are also very big differences. And not even like, it's not even set in stone that you will always feel that way going through a fat loss phase. The next time you're doing it, it can be like the opposite, right? You cannot experience that at all. And so
I'm not feeling too depressed right now, and I'm in a fat loss phase. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's super interesting to go through the phases and be very aware of what's happening in your body, how your body is responding to changes. And that can only happen if you have that level of awareness for the different, what we like to call the levers that you can like turn up and down when it comes to nutrition, training, and recovery, to understand better like how your body is responding to change, if it's like going in the right direction, the wrong direction, like if anything is happening at all. And so I think if you truly want to master your health, performance, physique, you will not be able to go around having that deeper understanding of what's going on in your body. Because if you want to transform long term, you need those skills. If you don't have those skills, you can maybe create results in the short term. You can get super shredded in the next couple of weeks and months for summer, but you will not be able to maintain that. You will just go back to what you did before because you haven't put the work in and like actually learning the skills that are needed to maintain those results. And so if you want to create better and better and better results, be it with your physique, be it with your health, be it with your performance, you just need to become better in understanding yourself, understanding your own body and your own physiology.
Yeah, and this would be like the very last point. It's like having a long-term plan, right? What do you intend to do with the peptide once you reach the results that you actually want to get?
Take them forever?
Yeah, but that's really
Yeah.
that's really the question that has to be answered.
Yeah.
Is like, hey, am I ready to have a subscription to that drug until the
For the rest of
for
my
the
life,
rest
yeah.
of my life? And if the answer is like, not really, it's not really what I want to do, then why do you even take that in the first
Yeah.
place? And then you might say like, hey, I just want to have like that. I want to feel what it's like once in my life to be like at the pinnacle of what I could achieve. And I'm like, absolutely fair. That's also in my views like a worthy experience to have. But it's still a question that you have to answer for yourself. And so the last thing that I want to share is, like at the beginning I said, hey, we only have like one lady who are, as far as I know, who's using peptide, but we have like a fair amount of ladies who are on HRT.
Mm-hmm.
It's not quite the same, but it's also like pretty trendy at the moment for women. And it's also a topic where there's a lot of debate and there's a lot of question marks around that. And what I can tell you is this, like, we have had no women who started taking HRT and then suddenly everything was like a walk in the park and it was very easy and they did not have to take care of what they were eating, of their steps, of their nutrition and that sort of thing. So despite the HRT, they were still having to take care of that. On the flip side, women who were taking HRT but improved the way they were eating and training, they were able to get better results than in the past, despite already taking HRT before. So the point here, and the reason I'm sharing this is, even if you do decide to take peptides, whatever compound you want to experiment with, you are going to get much more return on interest. Like, you are going to get so much more out of whatever you are taking if the rest is really taken care of and you already create like a very, very healthy environment for yourself and for your body. On the flip side, if you take any compounds, and it can be peptide, it can be drugs, it can be hormones, but you are not really taking care of the big blocks, then not much is going to change. And maybe you are going to notice some things. Maybe for a while, like, you are going to get pretty good results, but it's not going to last forever. I can guarantee you this. And it's still just like not going to work as well as if you are really like nailing everything that you could.
Dialed in.
So I guess that's kind of the
That's the answer.
The take-home message. Like, if you want to do peptides, then try to maximize everything that you can without them, like, before jumping on that train. And then once you do that for a while, you are much more equipped at deciding whether it's worth it for you to go that route or not, either because the results that you are getting are to your liking or not, or because you think like you have much more to get out of those compounds, and so forth and so on. So
100%. And have the right mindset, right? So ask yourself, why are you doing this? Do you want to really see what you're capable of, like beyond what nature gave you? Or are you just trying to fix result that you cannot create on your own because you haven't figured out what it takes?
100%. I hope this was helpful. I would love to hear any questions that you have about peptides, more specific ones. What is your opinion on those? Because
let us know.
This is something that's, as we said, like, it's quite trendy, and we know it's out there. It's not a topic that we talk a lot about. But if you have any more questions about that, then I would 100% love to to hear about that. And now I'm going to get my pre-workout to maximize the gains that I'm going to make from my session.
Let's train. Until next time. Bye bye.